Hi guys, Emma here. I had some difficulty finding a spot where I had light and you could see my bookcase, and my floor is messy, but don't worry about that. And this is my bed, but don't worry about that. I'm here to go over my TBR for the Reading Rush, which is a readathon in late July that I'm really excited to participate in. I have some stuff going on at work, so I'm hoping that clears up before then. But because of that, I've tried to condense all of the Reading Rush prompts down into the fewest number of books, just to make sure I can actually get through all of it. So because of that, this stack is going to be a little bit slender. It's mostly just these guys. But I have some sort of like alts and options that I'm going to go through also, because I'm generally a mood reader, and it's sort of hard sometimes to tell myself, like, you're going to read that, because that just makes me feel like not reading it. Like, it's the surest way to make myself not excited to read something. So setting myself up for failure here, but I'll go through the prompts. So the first prompt is read a book with a cover that matches your birthstone. And I was a little confused because as I've been going through other people's Reading Rush TBRs, people born in October keep on picking pink books. And I'm like, an Opal is not pink. Like, what? So now I'm sort of just like doubting my sanity a little bit. But for an opalescent shade, I picked The Likeness, which is a Tana French book. It's the second book in the Dublin Murder Squad series. And I read Into the Woods. I forget. I read the first book at sort of the beginning of quarantine, and it just blew me away. I feel like I haven't gotten into thrillers and mysteries too much before. Like, I would occasionally read like an Agatha Christie-esque whodunit type of thing, but I just lost my shit over Into the Woods. In the Woods? The first book. I just like went wild over it. It's been one of my favorite books of the year. It's sort of funny because one of my best friends from childhood like hated it, but this definitely fulfills the Opal cover prompt, and we'll see which other ones it also fulfills. The second prompt is read a book that starts with the word the, and guess what? We're back to The Likeness. I realized I didn't actually say what this is about, so just gonna keep on jagging on here. This book follows Cassie, who is one of the detectives in the first Murder Squad book. I think the books don't actually need to be read in order. I'm sort of a completist, so I tend to like to do things that way. But they're like interlinked but not sequential. Minor characters will become major characters in other books. So this one follows Cassie. The premise is when she was a young detective, she went undercover at Trinity University to like bust up some drug ring. It's many years later, and like her past is coming back to haunt her. So that's the summary. The third book is read a book that inspired a movie you've already seen. And I looked through my entire apartment to find something that fits for this prompt, and the only book that I found was A Wrinkle in Time. This is my friend's very, very old childhood copy that she gave me a while ago to read before we went to see A Wrinkle in Time in theaters, because it was like her favorite childhood book, whereas I have not read it. But of course I did not actually read it before we went to see the movie, so now's the time. The fourth prompt is read the first book you touch, which is a little bit complicated. I'm going to get back to how I'm going to address that one later when I go through some of my alts and stuff like that. The fifth prompt is read a book completely outside of your house. As I live in New York and as we're still in the middle of a freaking pandemic, this is quite difficult, but I do have a dog and I do need to walk my dog, so I think I'm going to try to download A Wrinkle in Time on audiobook and just listen to it while I'm walking her. She might get longer walks than usual. We'll see. It's pretty short, so it should be fine. Prompt number 6 is read a book in a genre that you've always wanted to read more of. And I think, as I sort of mentioned earlier, this fulfills that. Actually, they both fulfill that prompt. So 2 genres that I'm really excited to get more into would be mystery thriller and sci-fi. I feel like in general I tend to read nonfiction, or I'll read like fantasy, mostly just like middle grade fantasy if I want to like escape. As I talked about how much I liked the first ton of French book that I read, I'm really excited to get more into mysteries and thrillers in general. And then I don't know, I'm like one of those people who like really got into fantasy a long time ago but have never really explored sci-fi too much. So very good. These guys knock that off. 7th prompt is read a book that takes place on a different continent than where you live. So this takes place across the universe, but I guess that doesn't count as a continent. So Ireland, yay! Ireland is not a continent, but Europe, cool, fits. So obviously I've managed to cover 6 out of the 7 prompts out with these 2 books, one of which is a literal children's book, so not too hard. I've been like saving the likeness for like some time when I would have a lot of time to read, because when I read the first book, I just sort of like dropped all of my responsibilities. So I think this is a good chance to do the follow-up. I hope I'm not setting myself up for disappointment here, because I feel like I'm like already so excited to read it. My anticipation is up here. And so if it's not actually that good, I'm going to be very disappointed. We still have the outstanding issue of read the first book you touch. And I've seen people do this in a lot of different ways. But I think basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a stack of books that I feel like reading and touch a random one. Again, because I'm a mood reader, I think I'm actually going to do this the week of, so I know that I can choose something that I'm going to be into at the time and like get through. But I did think it would be sort of fun to pick out a stack of books that also fulfill some of these other prompts. So I feel like I'm cheating a little bit less. So I have some ideas here, but it might change in the actual reading rush, which I think I'm going to vlog. We're going to see it at that. But books. So here are some ideas. I think I literally have like dozens of books that could fulfill multiple categories here, because the is very easy. And also I have a lot of books in genres that I want to read more of, but I don't, and they just sit on my shelf. So there's that. But let's look at the stack that I picked out. The first book that I picked out as one of these alts would be Case Histories. I haven't read any Kate Atkinson, and this is her only one that I own. I know that I think it's Life After Life is much more famous, but this one fulfills the mystery genre, want to read more of thing. So I'd be into reading this for sure. We have Severance by Ling Ma. I was going to read this. I was like gearing up to read this right when the pandemic hit. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm good for pandemic stories for a little while. But I feel like we've adjusted. I can read this and not want to cry the whole time, probably. And this one, I guess I did the birthstone thing. I picked out some pink cover ones because I was like, maybe I'm stupid and the birthstone of October is pink, but I'm like 95% sure it's Opal. Anyways, so I could do both Opal and millennial pink books and be like, definitely got my bases covered. Another pink guy and another the guy would be The Idiot. This is by Elif Batuman, who I really like her nonfiction work, but I haven't read her novel, so I'd be excited to look at that. I think this is actually a very slow read. It's just sort of about a college student in the late 90s having a like intense email relationship with a boy, I think. I would be interested in getting into this, although it might not be in my final stack for the reading rush, because again, I'm not sure how quick of a read this is, and I want to like complete the challenge. So Half of a Yellow Sun is Chimamanda's first book, set in Nigeria, so this would be a good book for the different continent read. I would say that this would also fulfill the genre you want to read more of, because I don't read very much historical fiction, but I don't really want to. I mean, historical fiction is fine, but I have no desire to read more of it. So finally, in a genre that I want to read more of, Tia Oprah with Inland. This is basically, I think, a reimagining of Western novel, I guess. I don't know much about it except for there's some magical realism in there, and it's set in like the frontier West. I am very excited to read this, mostly because I read The Tiger's Wife and really loved it, but again, this is another one where I'm sort of going in blind, so honestly, like, sometimes that just makes me more excited when I don't know what to expect. Like, if I build up an expectation beforehand, I'll just be disappointed or just, like, focused on how the actual book is different. Again, mood reader here. I just, like, pick shit up. So my plan for prompt 4 is to, you know, pick out a stack like this and then close my eyes and point at it and grab a book. So with that, I guess that's sort of my plans for the reading rush. We got these two. We got a rando. It's going to be great. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.